In 1874, a chuck wagon cook named Gus Hoffmann fed 14 men on the XIT Ranch in the Texas Panhandle every morning before sunrise for 6 consecutive months of a cattle drive. He earned $75 a month. Every cowboy on that drive earned $30. They paid him more because they knew the truth every ranch foreman west of the Mississippi understood. A bad breakfast meant a bad day. A bad day meant cattle lost, fences down, men quitting. Number 18 on this list was so calorie-dense, the United States Army studied it during the Civil War to feed soldiers marching 20 miles a day. And number 7 used a living organism that scientists today sell in bottles for $12. Cowboys ate it straight from the crock before dawn and never once paid a cent. These 25 breakfasts did not come from cookbooks. They came from necessity, scarcity, and the brutal math of feeding hard men on almost nothing. Let us count them down. Number 25, hardtack soaked in 6-shooter coffee. Gus kept a barrel of these bone-dry crackers in the wagon. Cowboys called them molar-chippers and tooth dollars. They were soaked in scalding black coffee until they softened. The coffee killed the weevils that had burrowed in during storage. Nobody asked questions about what floated to the surface. A belly full of hardtack meant a man could ride through a norther without falling from the saddle. 8 cents a pound in the 1870s, sliced thick, dropped into cast iron before the sun broke the horizon. The fat rendered out in pools. Nothing was thrown away. The grease went into biscuits, gravy, and beans. Liquid gold in a frontier kitchen. On cattle drives, it was on the fire before the remuda was saddled. Number 23, cornmeal mush. A 50-pound sack fed 12 men for 3 weeks, stirred into boiling water until it thickened into a dense golden porridge. Served hot with molasses or bacon fat. Hit the stomach like a warm fist and stayed there through the morning. Leftover mush poured into a tin pan, cooled overnight, sliced thick and fried in lard the next day, crackled on the outside, soft and creamy inside. Straight from Native American cooking tradition, it used cornmeal, boiling water, salt, and bacon drippings. Cooked 3 minutes aside on a greased skillet. They had crisp edges and a dense, slightly sweet center. Cowboys stuffed extras into coat pockets for fence line rides. They did not crumble. They did not spoil quickly. They tasted better cold than most foods did when hot. The smell alone could pull a sleeping man out of his bedroll faster than a gunshot. Flour, lard, salt, baking powder crowded into a Dutch oven with coals on top and bottom. 20 minutes, golden and flaky. The gravy started in the same skillet that fried the morning salt pork. Flour went into hot grease, then milk was poured slowly while the cook whisked and cursed. Thick, peppery, flecked with pork. A spread with good biscuits kept its hands. A spread with bad biscuits lost them to the outfit down the road. Number 20, sourdough biscuits. Here is where a cook's reputation was made or broken. Every chuck wagon guarded a sourdough starter like a firstborn child. Some starters were years old, passed cook to cook across ranches and territories. On cold nights, the cook slept with the crock tucked into his bedroll to keep the yeast alive. The resulting biscuit split open like a cloud and soaked up gravy without falling apart. Cowboys judged a cook by his sourdough above all else. Simmered all night in cast iron over dying coals, salt pork, onion, dried chili peppers. By dawn, they had turned into a thick, smoky stew. 100 pounds of dried pinto cost $4 in the 1870s and fed a crew for a month. The overnight cooking method was not laziness. It was genius. Low heat over hours broke down the tough skins and made the beans easier to digest. That mattered when you were spending 14 hours on horseback. Number 18, pan de campo, cowboy bread. When the sourdough starter was tired and flour was running low, the cook turned to this flat bread straight from the Mexican vaquero tradition. Flour, water, lard, salt, baking powder. Mixed into a stiff dough, flattened into a thick disc, baked directly on hot coals. Crisp shell, soft, chewy interior that tore apart in thick strips. 15 minutes from start to finish. Anglo cowboys learned it from Mexican ranch hands who had been making it for generations. Mix it, shape it, cook it, eat it. Number 17. Red-eye gravy with country ham. Country ham seared until the edges browned and the fat went translucent. Then black coffee splashed directly into the screaming hot pan. The liquid hit the drippings and sizzled into a thin, dark, bittersweet sauce. Spooned over biscuits, it carried a jolt of caffeine and salt that could restart a dead man's heartbeat. The name came from the little pool of grease that floated in the center, staring up from the plate like a bloodshot eye. Nobody knows who invented it. Every bunkhouse cook south of Kansas knew the recipe by instinct. Number 16. Sourdough flapjacks. Same sacred starter, different shape. Thinned with water, a little sugar, a pinch of baking soda. Ladled onto a greased griddle. Crisp edges, soft, tangy center. Stacked 4 or 5 high and drowned in sorghum syrup or molasses. Trail songs mention them by name. A man could fold one, stuff it in his coat, and eat it cold from the saddle 2 hours later. The sourdough tang improved as it cooled. The chuck wagon cook. In 1880, the cook was the highest paid man on any cattle drive, $75 a month compared with a cowboy's $30. He was also the most protected. A man who insulted the cook, touched his cast iron without permission, or arrived late to the fire, got no breakfast. On the Goodnight-loving trail, Charles Goodnight himself enforced this rule. The skillet was sacred. The man who controlled it controlled the outfit. Number 15. Fried potatoes and onions. When the ranch had a root cellar, the cook pulled potatoes and onions and diced them roughly into a hot skillet glazed with bacon fat. The potatoes crisped and browned. The onions turned golden. Cowboys who had spent weeks on the trail eating nothing but beans and salt pork would nearly weep at the sight. 100 pounds of potatoes cost $1.50 in most Western territories. That kind of value made them sacred. Number 14. Steak for breakfast. This is the one that surprises people. On working cattle ranches, beef was not saved for supper. Whatever cut was available, usually a tough piece from a steer slaughtered for the outfit, was pounded flat with the back of a skillet and fried fast in hot lard, charred on the outside, chewy in the middle, packed with enough protein to fuel a 12-hour day of roping and branding. During roundup, when fresh beef was abundant, breakfast steak appeared every morning. A whole carcass had to be consumed quickly. Eating steak at dawn was not a luxury. It was logistics. Barrels of dried apples, raisins, and apricots in the storehouse, rehydrated overnight, simmered with sugar and a stick of cinnamon. Men who had not tasted fresh fruit in months took second helpings without asking. A pound of dried apples cost 10 cents and swelled to nearly 3 times its volume when cooked. That bright sweetness cut through the salt and grease of everything else on the table. Cowboys called it the taste of civilization. When a steer was slaughtered, nothing was wasted. Leg bones were split lengthwise and roasted near the fire until the marrow turned soft and golden. Spread across a hot biscuit, it was pure, concentrated energy. Rich, buttery, almost sweet. It had more calories per ounce than nearly anything else in the bunkhouse kitchen. Modern chefs charge $25 a plate for roasted bone marrow in Manhattan. Ranch cooks in the 1870s served it free because throwing it away was unthinkable. 1 handful of ground arbuckles per cup, strong enough to float a pistol. Before 1865, the cook had to roast green beans over the fire and grind them by hand. Then Arbuckle's patented pre-roasted beans, coated in egg white and sugar, became the coffee of the West. A candy was hidden in every bag, and whoever ground the morning coffee got it. On cold, dark mornings on the Chisholm Trail, that candy was the most contested prize in the outfit. The Chinese cooks. Something most people do not know is that Chinese cooks played an enormous role in Western ranch kitchens. At the Grant Corps Ranch in Montana, a cook named Sam became legendary for his pies and biscuits. Ranchers actively recruited Chinese immigrants who had worked railroad and mining camps because they understood how to feed large crews efficiently with limited supplies. They stretched flour further, and they seasoned food with what grew wild near the ranch. Their contributions have been largely erased from the cowboy mythology, but the men who ate their cooking never forgot it. When a hunter brought in a deer, the bunkhouse ate well for days. Leftover venison chopped fine, mixed with diced potatoes and onions, fried until everything crisped into a golden cake. A fried egg on top made it complete. During hard winters when cattle were too valuable to slaughter, wild game kept the crew fed. The hash stretched a single haunch into breakfast for 10 men. Number 9. Oatmeal with blackstrap molasses. On northern ranches in Montana and the Dakotas, where winter dropped below zero for weeks, hot oatmeal was survival. It was thick, topped with a generous pour of blackstrap molasses. That combination delivered iron, slow-burning carbohydrates, and enough warmth to push back against a wind that could freeze exposed skin in minutes. A man could eat a bowl at 5 in the morning and still feel its warmth in his belly at noon. This one had a different name on most ranches, a name I cannot say here. The cook took the heart, liver, tongue, sweetbreads, and marrow gut of a freshly killed calf and simmered them with onions and chili peppers. The most nutrient-dense meal on the entire frontier. Organ meats packed iron, B vitamins, and protein at levels muscle meat could not touch. On a working ranch where men burned 5,000 calories a day, this stew was the difference between finishing the job and falling out of the saddle. Cowboys on some outfits dipped a spoon directly into the sourdough starter and ate a mouthful raw before breakfast was ready. That bubbling, fermenting paste was packed with wild yeast and lactobacillus bacteria, the same probiotics that health food stores sell for $12 a bottle today. Cowboys did not know the science. They knew that a spoonful settled the stomach, and men who ate it regularly got sick less often. The cook chased them away with a wooden spoon, because every stolen bite meant fewer biscuits. They kept sneaking it anyway. The cook split yesterday's biscuits, spooned cold stew into the center, wrapped them in cloth, and handed them out as the crew mounted before dawn. The original grab-and-go breakfast. Portable enough to eat one-handed from the saddle, filling enough to last until noon. The cold biscuit absorbed the stew juices overnight, creating a dense, savory package that tasted better than it had any right to. Nothing wasted. Not the old biscuits, not the bottom of the bean pot, not a single minute of morning daylight. After the canning industry took hold in the 1870s, tin tomatoes became a bunkhouse staple. They were heated with salt and sugar and spooned over split biscuits. Cowboys craved them because vitamin C prevented scurvy during long stretches without fresh produce. A single tin cost 10 cents and served 4 men. That bright red splash of color on a plate of beige food meant something important had arrived from somewhere beyond the horizon. When the ranch kept dairy cows, flour was browned in bacon grease, then thinned with whole milk and seasoned with salt and pepper over biscuits, fried steak, potatoes, toast, or just a clean plate and a spoon. Milk gravy was comfort itself. It softened hard bread, enriched lean meat, and turned a sparse table into something that felt like abundance. The milk had to be used fast because there was no refrigeration. So gravy appeared every morning it was available, and nobody ever complained about seeing it twice. Thick-cut bacon sliced from a side that hung in the smokehouse, fried in its own fat until the edges curled and the kitchen filled with smoke. The drippings stayed in the pan. Cornbread batter went in on top. The bottom crust was dark and crunchy, the top tender and slightly sweet. That combination of smoky pork and warm golden bread was the taste of the American West itself. No meal was simpler. No meal was more satisfying. On ranches near the Mexican border, the vaquero influence ran deep. Wild chilies or dried peppers, diced into scrambled eggs, turned a plain breakfast into something that lit a fire behind a man's eyes. The capsaicin increased circulation and woke the body up faster than coffee alone. Mexican ranch hands had been cooking this way for centuries before Anglo settlers arrived. The smart ones paid attention. This was the ancestor of every Tex-Mex breakfast plate served from El Paso to San Antonio today. On mornings when roundup was starting or a big drive was about to launch, the cook laid out everything he had. Sourdough biscuits on a platter, bacon and salt pork in twin skillets, fried eggs if the hens were laying, beans that had simmered all night, fried potatoes and onions in a cast iron pan the size of a wagon wheel, gravy in a battered tin pitcher, coffee strong enough to dissolve a horseshoe nail. The men filed in before dawn, boots muddy, hats still on. They filled their plates in silence. The only sound was forks on tin and coffee being poured. That spread was not just food, it was a contract. The rancher was saying, "I will feed you well, and in return you will work until you cannot stand." Every man at that table understood the deal. They ate like it might be the last real meal for weeks, because sometimes it was. These were not recipes invented by chefs in comfortable kitchens. They were born from necessity, scarcity, and the brutal math of feeding working men on almost nothing. The bunkhouse cook had a cast iron skillet, a Dutch oven, a sack of flour, and the knowledge that if breakfast was late or bad, the whole operation suffered. Here is my challenge. Make one this week. Fry leftover cornmeal mush in bacon fat on a Saturday morning. Make red-eye gravy the way Gus Hoffmann made it on the XIT in 1874. Country ham and black coffee in a screaming hot pan. Tell me in the comments which one your family still made. Tell me if your grandfather ever talked about the ranch. Tell me which one surprised you. Because these breakfasts did not disappear because they stopped being good. They disappeared because someone sold your family a box of cereal and told them it was easier. Your great-grandfather knew better. Now you do too.